Hey everybody, I know that this is not my normal kind of day and time for a Periscope, but it's such a beautiful day out here on the East Coast, and I had a great email today from someone who had a wonderful question about getting started with arts integration in STEAM, and they were really discouraged, and I wanted to address that with you right now. Because it's something that I think so many of us go through, and that is funding. How do we get this momentum off the ground for arts integration and STEAM efforts if you don't have any money? And it's a valid question. And most of us, we're educators. We're not salespeople. We don't know how to reach out and ask for money without feeling kind of scuzzy, quite honestly. And we also don't know where to find the money, which I think is really kind of the biggest stumbling block for us, right? So I wanted to provide you with a couple of ideas, just like I provided on that email today, in the hopes that they're small, they're actionable, and they're doable for you. It's not overwhelming then for that. So a couple of my top ideas. One is actually crowdfunding it through a source like Donors Choose. And this can be really helpful because you're not having to reach out and put yourself, personally out there. It's not like you're doing one-to-one sales calls or anything. You're literally just kind of scoping out what the project would look like. And it's a good exercise for you anyway to think about, how would we use this? What would it look like? What would it require? So it allows you to kind of scope out your project and then think about really what are the implications for our students and how is that going to help them. And Donors Choose is great because you can easily put that on their site, take a couple of pictures and be really careful about how do you position this and what is it going to look like, and then spread the word through a very easy to use link. So put it in a newsletter, put it out there on a flyer. Parent-teacher conferences are coming up. That would be a great time to include that in parent-teacher conferences, just as a link. And then you can send it out to your community members as well. Reach out to your local Kiwanis clubs and local organizations in your area and send them that Donors Choose link. And you would be surprised at how many folks will, dig in and provide you with support in just a very small period of time. So Donors Choose is definitely one of my favorite resources. Another thing to consider is that you don't have to go big or go home. So this I learned as a grant writer for one of the large school districts in our state. I was actually in charge of getting money for various programs, and it was kind of daunting because I was like, oh, I got to go out and look at all of these grants that you need to apply for, and they're huge and they take a lot of time and it's overwhelming. And what I actually found out is that the best way to get funding is not to go after those big grants. Instead, look for small local grants that you can access very quickly. $500, $1,000, something, even $250, because you can quickly secure those. It doesn't take as much time or effort to kind of put those packages together. Very often they're 1 or 2 pagers. And so it's easy to kind of pull that piece together for your program or your initiative and then send those out, and it's a quick win. So if you can get 2, 3, 4 of those combined, that's a great way to get some funding kind of sparked into your initiative. It's not going to cover everything, but it's enough to get you started. And that's really what you're going to need, is some momentum to get you started with those funding options. Another great resource to take a look at is the online fundraising tools that you can actually use to support your initiatives. So folks like Art to Remember, Artsonia, places where you can kind of take your products that you're producing with your students, showcase them, and then send them out as a keepsake fundraiser where parents can purchase what their child has produced as a keepsake item. Christmas, any other holidays that are coming up, that can be really helpful as well. I know lots of teachers who have fully funded projects that way, $500, $1,000, just with those keepsake items. And it feels good to parents because they're getting something from their child. You know, everybody wants the ornament that they can hang up and remember, and they don't mind spending that, and they know it's going to a really good cause. So you might want to take a look at some of those pieces as well. That may help support you in your efforts too. So what I want you to walk away with in these three short, small ideas is that you don't need to get overwhelmed and you don't need to get frustrated. Think small, think local, and be really clear about what it is you're trying to fund and why. People are not going to want to invest, if you will, or participate if they don't know why, right? So that's a key factor, and you have to be super clear. Because lots of times these projects, they're big for us, right? There's lots of different moving parts and components, and that can get really overwhelming to folks. When you're telling them every single little detail, yes, it's important that they have access to the details, but when you're sharing that, don't start with all of the details. Start with, here's how this is going to impact our kids. Here's what I need. And here's how this will be put to good use. Those three key items, make sure you share that with them. My last tip is to really leverage your community and your arts organizations in your community. Keep it local. Reach out to them one-to-one. Reach out to your teaching artists. Reach out to your dance studios and your art studios and the pottery studio down the street and your local chamber of commerce and say, hey, look, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Would you like to participate? Here's how you could participate. And if you wouldn't, do you know of some place that I should reach out to? Have that always be your follow-up. Again, as educators, we are not natural salespeople. It feels weird. And I'm not really sure why, because we're constantly selling our kids on our ideas, right? But at the same time, when we have to reach out to those organizations, sometimes we put on the brakes, especially if we have to do a phone call. And I'm going to tell you right now, email is easier because you're not put on the spot right away, right? But email's also really easy to delete if I'm an organization and I get a ton of emails every day. So you can start with an email and say, here's what we're looking at doing. Would you be interested in participating with us, maybe providing some funding or donating some materials? Here's how you could get involved. You can start out with an email that way. But if you don't hear anything back from them in a couple of days, I usually give it 48 hours or so, get on the phone and give them a call. And start by saying, did you happen to get my email? If they say yes, use that as a segue. If they say no, say, must have gone into junk. I emailed you a couple of days ago about this great project we're doing in my classroom. Here's what it is. And then start talking about your project. See, that's so much easier than talking about yourself and talking about why you want to do it. Talk about the project and about how it's going to impact students. And then if they say, nope, not really interested, thanks so much, never leave the conversation without asking, okay, I totally understand. Do you happen to know somebody else that I should contact that would be a better fit for this maybe? Because almost 90% of the time, they're going to have somebody else you should contact. And it will lead you down the road to get you to the funding that you need. So leverage that community. That's what they're there for. Everybody wants to support students and what's best for students, including all of us. So those are my top tips for making sure that you're getting some funding for your STEAM programs, your arts integration initiatives. If you have questions, feel free to email me, Susan@educationcloset.com. Happy to help wherever we can. Thanks so much for joining me for this quick scope, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everybody.